Well, for more than 20 years, Louise Maxwell worked in the medical field, going above and beyond her duties to help patients who were disabled or handicapped in any way. Then, in her 30s, she discovered for herself the realities of life when you can no longer care for yourself. Louise found herself housebound for more than 10 years, and she still suffers with chronic pain today. But it's what God did in her heart during that time that's made all the difference, not just for her, but for the thousands of disabled individuals who are members of her website, soulfulencounters.com. Please welcome to Full Circle from London, Ontario, Louise Maxwell. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
And we do welcome you, Louise.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And you bumped me out of my seat. No, that's okay.
She just wanted to be a little closer to me for a while. That's all. Now, Louise, you are just sparkling on our couch. It's hard to imagine that you have had such a debilitating journey with physical pain.
Right, and sometimes that works against me if, you know, when I was having all my troubles and the medical people would look at me and especially that it was really hard to pinpoint what was the matter. So sometimes I'd say, oh, I better go without makeup to the doctor,
oh, dear.
and so on.
But we know that it really, did it start with the car accident?
I had surgery about 5 years before, and I was fine. And then with this car accident in the desert.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia.
What were you doing in the Saudi Arabian desert?
My husband went to work there. I was to work there too, but I worked there for a few months only, and that was it. So it.
Tell us about the car accident. What happened?
Well, we were in the desert, and I was sitting at the back in a Jeep, and the driver was going to get stuck, so he went really fast over some ruts, and I was hanging on to my 4-month-old. I was securing him, and we both jumped up in the air, and there were no seat belts there. And I came back down with a slam, and the next day I couldn't move from my neck down.
And you'd already had surgeries on your back.
Yes,
so,
I had one. And
you were really targeted there.
I was, yes, I was. I really was, because I hadn't been fused the first time. Maybe it might have helped.
What do you mean by fused? What does that mean?
They scrape bone from your
spine.
Your spine, and then they pack it in. And so it doesn't move anymore, because sometimes the discs collapse.
Okay, and that's what hadn't happened during your first surgery.
Right.
Okay. And so then we went up in the Jeep, and then you landed.
I landed, and that was it. I couldn't move. I would keep sinking to the floor if I tried to get out of bed, and I had people trying to lift me up from the floor, but the pain was all over the place, so it was really even hard.
Louise, what are you thinking through this pain? Like, I mean, for me, I haven't had that kind of chronic pain or any fusing in my vertebrae or spine, but how do you deal with that emotionally and
because
mentally?
You still, to this day, suffer with pain.
Yes,
right?
yes, quite
pain.
a bit. Yes, quite a bit of pain. I guess when it happened again, I just thought, well, I'll probably have to have more surgery and I'll be fine again. So you try and get past the present and try and think of, you know, a future.
But that must have been virtually impossible, because you spent a decade in a hospital, in and out of hospital.
Yes, because it took me a year to get upright to be able to make the trip home, and then it just started a life path, a domino effect. I kept having surgery after surgery, different hospitals out of town, and every surgery I had a major complication. Wow. Till my last surgery, I almost lost my life. My spinal artery was clipped, and I lost my total body volume of blood. A few times over, I flatlined, and had a dura leak, that's spinal fluid, and and then 10 days later I rebled internally. So
no
my
wonder you
goodness.
thought, your conclusion was, God doesn't love me.
that's exactly what I thought, because I thought everyone has surgery, and every surgery, it's a disaster. They ended up putting 6 clips on my artery. That's how they stopped, that's how I was able to.
You know, you're such a little lady, such a petite, beautiful little lady. To imagine you going through such pain and losing so much blood, it's just, it must have been devastating.
Oh, it was awful. When I was coming to, I knew it was different than the other times. I just felt that I was dying, and I was kind of going in and out. There were a lot of doctors around me, and then I saw a vision of the cross during this time, and it just glowed all around, and I felt then that I'm going to make it through. And that beautiful feeling lasted with me for the whole 6 months I was in hospital.
Okay, and so when did, now you mentioned before that you felt like God didn't love you. So when did that turn around for you?
Well,
when did your pain become something that drew you closer?
Right, because every time I went into hospital, I would either have a nurse that was a good Christian handing me Bible, and I had 2 Christian doctors. I had one doctor that when I was on the examining table, I looked up, and here he's on his knees praying for me.
On his knees praying.
And that really blew me away, because he didn't know what else to do with me. And so he got on his knees, and when I looked and I saw him there, I thought, boy, if a well-known doctor like this could get down on his knees in his office, then I better get on the same path. And so things like this were happening to me. I always had someone there that in hospital, because I was in hospital away from my hometown, so I had no one coming to visit me, and the nurses and one of my other doctors was a good Christian too. And so, I was going through one path where my body was failing me, and another path where I was being lifted up.
So those prayers, so seeing these people that say, okay, I'm going to get on my knees and pray for you, I'm going to give you a Bible, you see the vision of the cross. At this point, you have to say, okay, God, you see me, I'm going to be healed, or that you've got a plan for me. Is that what you're thinking through as you're on your back or on your side in the hospital?
Well, that's right, because, and especially when I had this mishap and I made it through, and that really started me thinking, I made it through, so God was watching me. He was in control.
Now, Louise, when people think of disability, a lot of the time there's a very negative outlook on it. There's always, oh, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. But just from looking at you and talking to you in the green room, you've lived a full life. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that that you've done with your life despite your disability?
Well, it was very hard at first because, I couldn't do very much. So for one thing, I had Bible studies in my home one night a week, and that was very fulfilling for me because different people would come that I didn't even know to my place. And so that was very nice. So I tried to occupy my time with different things. Other than that, but nothing seemed to really turn out because I was either not physically able.
But something did turn out, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, we know that you've always had a heart for others, that you've always reached out to others in different ways, even before your accident and this turn in your life began. And I went on your website, soulfulencounters.com.